Travel writer Debbie Stone is back on Big Blend Radio today to tell us all about her adventure on the Chicago Architecture Foundation Center River Cruise aboard Chicago's First Lady. The cruise showcases the Windy City's stunning architectural gems and rich history, and you can go to blendradioandtv.com and just type in Chicago Cruise. You will find her story there. It'll also be featured in the fall issue of Big Blend Radio and TV magazine. You can also go to the cruise website. It is cruisechicago.com. Debbie is a regular here on Big Blend Radio, also in Big Blend Radio and TV magazine, as well as in our Parks and Travel magazine. And it's super good to have her back. We love to call her Fire Monkey, but it's even better because we finally got to meet her in person at the Georgia O'Keeffe Museum in Santa Fe just a few days ago. So welcome back, Debbie. How are you?
I am doing wonderful, ladies, and yes, it was fabulous to finally meet you and put the face to the name, and it was fun to show you around, and I know that you had a great visit.
Oh, we did.
Awesome.
We love Santa Fe. It is a magical city, and talk about history. I mean, the first capital city in the country, over 400 years, and so many different cultures there. It's just such a special place. And that's what's interesting to me today. I know we're talking about Chicago and the architecture, but I wanted to touch base with it because going from Santa Fe has such an identity in regards to the Pueblo style of architecture, you know. And I mean, when you drive into the downtown area and the plaza, it's like, this is it. And there's no other place in the world that is like Santa Fe. Is that the same for Chicago? And isn't that your hometown too?
It is my hometown. I was born and raised in Chicago. I haven't lived there for many years, but I visit often because I still have family there and friends. And Chicago does have, I think, a very iconic skyline. I think it is a city of buildings, and there is a lot of history there, and the modern mixes with these other different types of styles. These, one of the Art Deco and kind of Beaux Art and all different kinds of styles that mix with this modernism, and it truly is one of those cities that was designed and built by a number of really well-known architects who put their stamp on the city.
Wow.
Nice.
Wow. And so you went back to Chicago, and you took this amazing, river cruise, and this is through the Chicago Architecture Foundation Center, right?
Yes, it is in conjunction with that organization, and I do want to say that there are a number of companies that ply the river, talking about various things, but this is the only company that is in conjunction with the Chicago Architectural Foundation, which means that their docents, who are given extensive training and education, they are the ones who really know their stuff. I mean, they're very passionate about Chicago and very knowledgeable about the history of the city and all the different architecture that you will see along the way. So this really is for people who truly want to kind of hear it from the horse's mouth, so to speak, about the architecture. I think this is really, if you do one thing in Chicago, this should be it. It's really a must for visitors, and even for Chicagoans alike. I had never really done this particular specific riverboat experience, and I was blown away. It was, and I had several members of my family with me, and they too were just, blown away. And these are Chicagoans, and the views from the river are unparalleled regarding all. And they really point out, I think it's over 50 sites that you'll see on this 90-minute kind of experience, and you'll get this great overview. Yeah, it's terrific.
Do you get wine on board?
She always has to go to the wine.
Wine on the river, I'm just saying. Or is that's probably, it's not going to happen, right, for this kind of cruise. I'm just going, it would be cool, raise a glass to Chicago. But this is the First Lady, too. So is this the first river cruise boat when she's named Chicago's First Lady?
That's a good question. I don't have that answer. I don't know. I just know that was the name of the boat, and I think they do have a couple of boats named different ones. This one is probably the original one that they started with when they were doing these tours. But it's a really wonderful, spacious boat with everybody can sit outside, and there's plenty of room, and there's not a bad seat in the house, so to speak.
Yes,
Nice.
when somebody says Chicago, I think Windy City. I don't think river until I read your article. I'm like, oh yeah, there is a river there. So I think
Mm.
it's cool that you can
It is,
cruise
and
it.
I mean, we have Lake Michigan for Chicago, but then the Chicago River that
Mm.
runs right through it, and it's one of those very, like I said, very historical rivers that has really affected the development of the city over the years. Chicago was just, really nothing, and then back in the whatever it was, late 1700s, some fur trader came and he settled in the area, and then more people came and they built Fort Dearborn, and then they had a canal come, and then the railroad came, and it became this big kind of transportation and economic hub because of its location, and so it got a real good name and grew really, really quickly, but things really stopped with that Great Chicago Fire, which I think many
Mm.
people have heard about, and
Yes.
that was something in the 1871. It was just this terrible, terrible event. And if you were a resident of Chicago, if you grew up in the schools in Chicago, of course you hear in detail about this catastrophic event, which left, destroyed a lot of the town, the heart of the town, and all these buildings. I think it was over 17,000 buildings destroyed. And they still don't know really what the cause of the fire is.
Wow.
I
That's
thought it
it.
was the cow. I thought it was like, what's her name, Mrs. O'Leary's cow. That's what I always heard. It
And
wasn't
that's
the
what
cow. Oh,
everybody heard that. The story was that her cow somehow knocked over a lantern in the
yeah.
barn, and that just started everything. But they said that there's other theories, that people could have started it,
Oh,
a meteor might have started it. They really
wow.
don't know. This was a city that had a
Huh.
lot of wooden buildings at the time, and it was dry outside, and lots of, I mean, it was primed to basically go up in flames if anything had happened, and it would just catch and just, basically decimate that
Wow.
area there.
Well, shame
Wow.
for the cow getting the blame.
Oh,
That's not fair.
you know, you know, that's really interesting
Well,
about your article and your experience. Artist Victoria Chick, she's an art historian and artist, contemporary figurative artist, and one of our art experts in Big Blend. And it was about a year ago, I'm going to say year and a half ago. Yeah, actually, almost within the day. I'm just looking at her article now. She wrote, "The American Character Represented by Architecture," and the whole story about how art, because I know you're into art, having been a docent, being a docent at Georgia O'Keeffe, and then taking us around. I know you're into art, Debbie. But Victoria wrote this article on how Americans started to paint buildings and put them,
mm,
actually showcase architecture, and how relevant Chicago was, and how some of the artists started going, no, there's art in skyscrapers, just like Georgia O'Keeffe. You were showing us that Georgia's going,
Right.
no, I'm going to show the views of skyscrapers in New York. But artists at one point had to say, hey, this is a new medium, and in a way that helped the architects move forward, because somebody was portraying them in art. And I'm actually looking at it. She even has the art of the artist doing, Chicago, the Great Chicago Fire, and how that really started the whole movement of architecture and art. So it's really interesting, because I'm looking at the art and then seeing these actual buildings, and they're pretty impressive. I mean, doing skyscrapers, and so really Chicago was the start of it, right after the fire. They were the city that said, we're doing this.
Well, it became, the fire created this wonderful canvas, I think, for Chicago to kind of rebuild and actually, recreate itself. And so architects were very excited because they had this wonderful foundation to build this, this modern city. And actually, Chicago supposedly was the birthplace of the skyscraper, and it has currently, I think, over 1,300 high rises. And
wow.
it in itself, I think architecture, of course, is art, just like photography is art, and so
Sure.
these buildings have a sculptural quality to them. You can look at them and you see, the way that architects have designed things with waviness, or with the big solid features, and balconies that have different formations to them, and just I don't know, just the way the building is. You look at it and you get this different appreciation of how artistic the architecture really is, and how unique and different the buildings are, and how they play upon each other, and how they reflect each other, which I found to be wonderful. You could look into a building and see the reflection of all these other buildings surrounding it. Not only that, but also maybe see that the building, the curves or waves, mimics the curves of the Chicago River itself.
Cool.
Like the Twin Towers one, the Twin
Yes.
Towers of Marina City, that it almost looks like really thin wafer cookies on top of each other. These
Yes.
round these beautiful. They're so circular, but it also reminds me of the Capitol Record building in L.A. for some reason too. Yeah.
Yes.
It's neat. I like those. I like the circular ones.
Yeah, I think that those are, Marina City was actually this experiment, I think. Bertrand Goldberg, I think, was the architect. It was an experiment to kind of draw in middle-class Chicagoans back to the city after they'd gone out to the suburbs for many years. And so this Twin Towers was kind of like to create this whole, in a way, of a community with, residences, with parking, with a restaurant, with shops, even a hotel, the marina. And so it was kind of to have everything there, so people would be drawn back to living into the city, but they could have everything at their fingertips right there.
Wow. And then you have the tallest building in Chicago, which is it's the Willis Tower, the second tallest in the country. So, Donald Trump may want that. Just saying. He always wants the tallest. I'm just saying.
Well, it's the Trump Tower, Trump Hotel and Tower is definitely, I think that is the second tallest building in the city. But the Willis Tower, which a lot of people in Chicago know quite formally or quite informally as the Sears Tower, which it was before, and that's how I grew up with it, knowing it was the Sears Tower. So when I heard it was called the Willis Tower, it's like the Willis Tower. I just call it the Sears Tower, and everybody I know in Chicago still refers to it as that. But it was at one time the tallest building in the world. I think it held that title until 1998. It is, I believe, 110 floors, and it was really considered groundbreaking back in the 1970s when it was first introduced. And like I said, it's still quite tall. I think somebody has it on the internet as being, I think, the 13th tallest building in the world, I believe.
Wow. Imagine building it or cleaning the windows. No, thank you. No, thank you.
I mean, how high do we really want to go up on the building?
I know.
It's like, okay, now you're at the 57th floor. Get your oxygen tanks out, people.
Nancy's still getting used to the altitude. We were
that's what it's about.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. I know, but it's I find it fascinating because I think that going through your photos and reading the article really gave me a bigger appreciation to this kind of architecture, because you do see different colors and the reflections do almost look water-like, with making the building kind of fluid. And the Lake Point Tower, I love that one because again, it has that rounded curve. It kind of has like a ripple of water in the way it's formulated.
Yeah. To me, I just love that, and I think it's amazing that. Architects can design something like that, but then, it's built like that wave that goes in and out. It just, to me, at first when you think about skyscrapers, people just think of these, tall, kind of very geometric structures. And then you look at a building like this and you're like, oh my gosh, it is like a true sculpture. It really is such a cool concept to be able to wave like that and go in and out and have, another one of my favorites is that building Aqua, which is this like kind of greenish aqua colored building. It's designed by Jeannie Gang, who is a very prominent female architect on this cutting edge scene, and it's got these rippling balconies, and supposedly each one is unique and different, and this colored glass, and once again it gives you the impression of the water that's coming down on its sides, and like it's flowing. And not only that, it's an eco-planet friendly, energy efficient building. So it's a relatively new building, but it stands out, and really it gets a lot of people going, whoa, that's really cool what she did.
Nice.
I like that. And when you're going on this cruise, so you're on the Chicago River, is this kind of going through the heart of the city? And
Yes,
it looks
yes.
like people can take a walk on the side. This is kind of a, go on the riverboat. You're going to hear about everything, but you're getting a different view by being on the water. So you're like glimpsing into the city.
Exactly, and I think they have the newly kind of completed Chicago Riverwalk, which, from I believe the previous mayor, he had gone to San Antonio and seen the Riverwalk there and had been really impressed and thought Chicago needs something like that, which is a marvelous thing because before that there was really nothing, nothing that was connecting, a continuous pathway connecting basically the lakefront with the heart of downtown, but it goes alongside the river in so many places, and that's another perspective to get is when you're walking along and you're looking at it from being a pedestrian versus being, somebody who's sitting aboard a boat, and so. We walked a bit on the Riverwalk, and it was lots of fun. It was a beautiful day outside. People were out there, eating and, drinking and just people watching, and it's really a really wonderful, valuable asset, I believe, for Chicago,
Nice. Are people living in these buildings, or are they all professional?
Yes.
I feel like the stock market is in every building. That's how it feels, when you look at some of them. I know Chicago's got it going on.
Yeah, some of them are mixed use, and some of them are condos, and a lot of them have, offices, tech stuff now. So it's a combination of a lot of different things. They decided, for example, one of the oldest buildings, the Fulton House, they, converted that to condos and offices, and it's right on the river as well. People love. If you're going to live downtown in this urban environment, to live on the river, with wonderful, fascinating views is really great if you can do it. And so they've, decided to put multi-use in and adaptive use, reuse of these other buildings like warehouses, like Montgomery Ward's massive catalog center, and like the Merchandise Mart as well. And so these are being adaptively reused in interesting ways.
Well, they've got to have some parks somewhere down there, right?
Yes. And they do.
Cool.
They have lots of parks in various places. And, of course, right on Lake Michigan, I always tell people, if you go downtown and you're, doing this boat cruise and then you get off and, get down to Lake Michigan, go to the Chicago Art Institute, which is world famous, go to Millennium Park, Grant Park for an outdoor concert, soak up all of that. There's just plenty of, I think, green space all along.
Oh, good.
It must look really neat at night, too, with all the lights on. Do they do any cruises? Is there waterfront activity at night to go down the river? And
well, I believe that this particular company does the twilight cruises as well, and and I also know that you could probably just there's lots of wonderful places, restaurants and bars to go to at the tops of these places and just kind of look out and you have this wonderful cityscape that's just outstanding and so a lot of people do that as well.
And it sounds like that this is also something moving forward. So it's not just, here in history we decided, okay, we're going to rebuild and we're going to kick butt with these skyscrapers and be really imaginative and, go for it. But it seems like, history is progressing on and people are, architects are still in that creative sphere and adding new buildings.
Yes, the construction continues, and they've, been building several wonderful, fabulous projects like 150 North Riverside, River Point, and that's, those are just amazing kind of feats of engineering, I think, especially, the former, it's like the Riverside, 150 North Riverside is like this very narrow site that's like, smushed in there by the river and rail tracks, and it's, it's a feat of engineering that it's 20 times taller than its base is wide.
Wow.
So it's hard to even fathom how that could even be done.
Oh,
yeah.
But yet it's being done, and
got to go back to algebra.
Yeah, it's like geometry. How does this actually happen?
Algebra, it's all 90-degree angles, or it don't work.
I know.
Yeah, it's
but then to make it curve to me is really like the Lake Point. I go back to that because it's how do you do that? You got to look at it and go, all of these buildings, and then try to take photos of this. I had a hard time with sequoia
Right.
trees because they're the giant, the world, largest tree,
Right.
and by
Right.
volume you're looking up, and it's like, how am I going to get that? I need to go up. So was it
Yep.
like that? I mean, does everybody's necks backwards on this cruise?
Yeah, well,
you know,
yeah, pretty much you look and you see people's, chins lifted upward. I mean, it is amazing because it's happening on both sides of the river. And so
Mm.
you're kind of like your head is going from one side to the other. The docent is pointing out something, of course, like on the left side or whatever, but it's these are these just massive constructions, and it's just to me it's you're just kind of in awe, I think, for 90 minutes. You come away with this like, oh my gosh, this is just so exciting. What a vital place this is. I mean, Chicago's known for a lot of different things, and sometimes people forget that this is, like I said, a city of incredibly diverse and eclectic architecture. And
mm,
the historical buildings are really interesting too. The one that I love the story of is the Wrigley Building, and that it's
Mm.
this very
mm,
well-known white building that's kind of European Renaissance and with white terracotta, and so it's very striking. And but the story is funny because Wrigley, everyone thinks of as Wrigley Gum, but initially it was
Right.
this laundry detergent company, and so they just stuck
Hmm.
in a piece of gum with every container of detergent. But then people loved the gum, and they were like, "Hey, we're going to stop stop our
Soapy
laundry
gum.
detergent business and start making gum."
Wow.
wow.
Can you imagine getting a stick of gum out of a laundry detergent box?
I know that's kind of
That's
weird.
funny. It's yeah,
Yeah,
a little soapy. So when
yeah,
as you chew, you blow bubbles.
yeah,
Maybe that's
exactly.
where bubble gum came from.
I know. I just think of Wrigley Field when I hear Wrigley. I
Yes.
Yep.
just think of
Hmm.
Yep.
Wrigley Field.
Yep, famous Wrigley Field, exactly. And then the Tribune
Wow.
Tower, which is another really famous, the Chicago Trib, which was, newspaper. They announced in an international competition way back in the 1920s, and they wanted to build a new downtown headquarters. And so then they got these entries from all over the world, and the winners were Hood and Howell, who designed this Gothic revival tower,
Mm,
and they put all these different fragments of important historical buildings in the world. They put them in the exterior of the structure, and then inside are these famous quotations from
mm,
Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson,
Yay.
and they're all talking about freedom
Cool.
of the press. It's really quite a fascinating building, not only outside but inside.
Hmm.
I love that. Freedom of the press. We got to keep that there.
Yay.
Yep.
And I love
Yep.
that. I love anything with Benjamin Franklin. If he's got a quote there, I'm going to go
Uh,
see it. I have an interesting question. Nancy and I have not been to Chicago yet. So I'm
oh,
wondering what is I
Mm-mm.
know we have no clue about the Midwest. You've done some great stories over the last year or two. Detroit and
yep.
Lake Erie and
Cleveland and yep.
Cleveland.
Mm.
We're very
Yep.
excited. So I think we'll see part of it. We're gonna go follow the Arkansas River. Now I'm like detour, hop over to the Chicago River. Why not? Maybe we should be doing this by boat, Nancy, on our Love Your Parks tour. We should just be boating. That might be
Oh
easier. It's
boy.
safer than me trying to ride. Everyone says we should be in an RV. You don't want to see that. But Chicago in winter. So we had this book, historical photo collection of Christmas in Chicago, and it just looks so magical. Like this is the Christmas city, and
Mhm.
I'm wondering what this has got to look like in Christmas time and winter time with snow and these buildings. It's got to be like a whole
And the
different
lights.
scene. Yeah, this has got to be like a
Definitely.
wow.
Hmm.
Definitely, it's I mean, Chicago is I think it's notorious for its weather. Basically, it's known, as you mentioned before, with a windy city, and so
Hmm.
walking along Lake Michigan in the middle of winter is probably not the most ideal situation. But in the winter is cold there, and it can be very bitter cold. Downtown is always been this exciting place to me just because there's so much going on there. There's so much incredible music and theater in Chicago. Chicago's a big cultural town, and museums that are just world famous, and shopping that's amazing, and food that's incredible. And so going downtown for me was always, when I was younger, was always such a special treat. And then as I got older, I was able to go and go down and see all the different places like the Second City, and just the Goodman Theater, and just all these different spots and get such a great cultural dose. But I think it's an exciting city no matter when you go. Of course, it's ideal when you go and it's lovely weather and you really can be outside and take advantage of being outside because of being on the lake and the whole thing. But to me, anytime you go to Chicago, there's plenty of indoor things to take advantage of.
Mm. And pizza, is it really true? Is a deep dish the best?
Oh my God, Pizzeria Uno or Due are like world. I mean, they're like the originals, and they're amazing. And it is. It's like, and it's really like having this. I mean, it's an experience in my mind. It's like pizza I've never yet encountered again, kind of thing. So it's one of those musts, and and tourists that come from all over the world have heard about Chicago's style deep dish pizza, and so it's like they have to have it, or like the Chicago style hot dog that get people love those, or but Chicago is also a foodie town, so there is everything from farm to table and any type of ethnic cuisine that you can imagine, because Chicago is made up of all these different neighborhoods, fascinating
That's
neighborhoods,
so cool.
from Irish and Polish and everything you can imagine.
I love that. That's
me
the
too.
Most fun.
Exactly. And
most fun.
I think that the thing to do too, like you're saying, this should be one of those things that you do when you go to Chicago. What we learned, just in our recent visit to Santa Fe, you took us around George O'Keeffe, and I think that having docents there in that museum and you telling us some of the backstory, there's something that you just, when you have someone sharing that history on some of these tours, you get this foundation. When we were in Santa Fe, we took a tour of La Fonda on the plaza, the hotel, and it gave us an idea of how the history and the art and the Fred Harvey House and all of that amazing history. And then the final day was a New Mexico food and wine tour. And we went all through downtown, and through that tour, we really got this basis of Santa Fe, and really honestly wish we had done that as our first experience. Our first thing is always run off to the parks, but when you think about it, when you have these tours, this kind of thing really sets that foundation of understanding where you are. So you have this appreciation, because I know when you drive through a city, you know what, that can be really not as much fun. But if you have this appreciation, then you will have a different attitude and mindset when you're exploring, I think.
It's more personal. You can ask questions. You have time to actually reflect on what you just learned and think about it and ask a question. When you just drive into a big city, it's like, holy crap.
Well, it's overwhelming. But I think every time I visit any place, towns, small and big and whatever. I mean, if I can take a walking tour, if I can take a food tour, if I could take a boat tour, if I could take a whatever, historical type, whatever tour, I try to take one tour in a place so that I kind of get a kind of a grasp of the background and from somebody who lives there or who has extensive knowledge of the place. And I feel like there's something lacking when you go visit a town and you don't, you just go around to these sites and whatever, but you don't, I don't know, a tour kind of wraps it all together, and it's a great way to start out your trip, because it really gives you a base, I think.
I agree.
Yeah, it does.
I agree. It really does. Like, if you go to a national park, take a ranger program.
Yes.
Go on a hike with them. Like, that's what we did in Chaco. We were able to take this amazing tour and really get to understand how, these ancient peoples, how did they build, like, no one really knows. It's like, that's insane how they did it. I mean, like, I still think aliens came down and helped them, because it's amazing. And that's how they did the Sphinx in Egypt. I'm just kidding. But when you think about those kinds, you have this appreciation, and those stories, it sits with you because it becomes part of the experience. So I'm so glad you did this and brought it to our attention, and for everyone listening, their attention, and our readers as well. Everyone, again, the website is cruisechicago.com. And also, don't forget Debbie's article is up right now on blendradioandtv.com. You'll see on our expert department. Click on Debbie. You'll see her different stories there. Her articles are featured in Big Blend Radio and TV magazine. This one will be in the fall issue, and also in Parks and Travel magazine. And those articles are also up on the website for the magazine, which is nationalparktraveling.com. So, Debbie Fire Monkey, where's the next destination?
Yeah.
Well, I just got back from Hilton Head Island in South Carolina, where I stayed at an interesting wellness place called Hilton Head Health. So I was there for 5 days, and so that story will be coming up. And then I am headed to the island of Oahu on Hawaii,
Nice.
and I'm heading there in another week. And so I've been to a number of islands in Hawaii, and I've only spent like a night in Oahu, and it was like 20 years ago. And so I figured it was probably time for me to go back and really explore the island. I've never been to Pearl Harbor. I've never been to Diamond Head, never been to some of these famous places. And so I'm going to spend about a week on Oahu.
Can you do the
hula?
We
can't wait to hear about it. You know,
yes,
that's going to be
I
awesome.
think it'll be a lot of fun. Yeah. So,
I'm going to ask
again. I'm going to ask again. Can you do the hula?
Can I do the hula? I can probably do a very amateur variation of that.
I want to see.
Yeah, it's going to be the Fire Monkey hula. You know, she has to do it with fire.
Oh, it's going to be jacked up, man. It's going to be fast.
Yeah, I think that's a negative. Okay.
Uh-oh. All right. So, you know, we love to always play music for you. So this song we picked out today is called Evolution. It's by Elliot Lewis, and I know a lot of you have seen him on Daryl's House and also performing with Hall & Oates, a multi-instrumentalist. This is from his album Adventure. Awesome individual. He does amazing photography from all his travels around the world. So you can go to his website, elliotlewis.com, and that's Elliot with one L and one T, and Lewis is Lewis. So elliotlewis.com. But Evolution, I think that, you know, just even thinking about that, Chicago stood up and said, okay, we had this, you know, huge fire, and we're going to keep evolving. We're not going to let it get us down. And I think that's a huge thing. Things happen in life that are really, you know, traumatic, but how do we change that and create a name for ourselves in architecture? You evolve and you create and make architecture. So here it is, Evolution. Thanks so much, Fire Monkey. You take care.
You too, ladies. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.